I'm going to tell you that three things happened under the Biden administration. Trump's being blamed for them now, but these squarely fall on Joseph Robinette Biden. The first one is most jobs under Joe Biden went to illegal immigrants. That has absolutely been proven. The next biggest area where jobs went under Joe Biden were to government jobs. He is the one that bloated. He is the one that hired. Why? They needed the job numbers to be good. And number three, what that we know with certainty is a fact, is that a large portion of those jobs were actually fabricated. They were fake. They had to go in and unwind them. And then what did Democrats do? They said, look at the jobs report. We're not growing under Donald Trump, but really they were minusing all of the fake jobs.
One of the most terrible ideas is that we should employ just an endless amount of people, constantly paying them great salaries with great pensions to do freaking nothing. That is the biggest point that I think conservatives have been trying to make, not only recently, but for the last several decades. What the heck is the government doing? Why is it always getting bigger? And what are we, the taxpayers, seeing in return? Well, about 100,000 federal employees today are set to resign as a part of Trump's initiative to get a bunch of federal workers to resign. Now, there's some nuance in there, which is why we want to discuss this with the host of the Stephen Gardner podcast, Stephen Gardner, the Stephen Gardner Show. Stephen, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate you taking the time.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
So I want to first start off with kind of an explanation of what's going on. I think the best way to do that is watch this short clip from the Economic Times. They are kind of outlining what's happening, and then we'll kind of get into the minutia of who's mad about it and why, in fact, they are mad about it, and whether or not those cries of anger are make any sense. Check this out, and we'll discuss.
More than 100,000 federal workers will formally quit on September 30th as part of the latest wave of the Trump administration's deferred resignation program. The departures represent the largest single-year decline in civilian federal employment since the Second World War. The resignation program will cost $14.8 billion, with 200,000 workers receiving full salary and benefits while on administrative leave for up to 8 months, according to a Senate Democrats report issued in July.
So, Stephen, first of all, the 100,000 people leaving, your thoughts on this, and maybe kind of, I don't know, if people aren't aware, the explanation as to why this is a necessary thing given the bloat of the federal government.
President Trump is a businessman. If he looked at his Miami golf course and suddenly realized that we have 3 times as many bellmen, 3 times as many caddy, 3 times as many servers in the restaurant, he would say, wait a minute, I love these people. It's nothing personal, but why am I, as a business owner, paying triplicate? I need to get this off, because for every business, overhead is almost always the single expense that makes a business sink or fail, right? And so in order to be wise with taxpayer money, he's just fulfilling a campaign promise. He promised us that he would cut government, that he would reduce the federal workforce. I mean, I remember him courageously standing in front of the Libertarian Party saying, vote for me, give me your vote. You guys have been demanding small government for decades. You're never going to win. I will win, and I will give you a smaller government. So here he is, handing a smaller government back to the American people. And, they're going to sit and complain, oh, this is going to cost $14 billion. Well, the Congressional Budget Office already came out and said it's actually going to save $28 billion every year going forward. So you go out 10 years and that is saving so much money. 28 billion times 10, that's $280 billion. That's almost $250 billion from one move. And it's because we don't need all of those workers.
Steve, what I'm hearing is that you don't have employees on your staff that sit around and twiddle their thumbs all day. That's an interesting business strategy. I might take that up myself. But you did bring up a good point, and that's what I think a bunch of the libs are making this case on. Well, this is going to cost $14.8 billion over the course of 8 months, which is the deal that they made with the administration. Do you think that that argument is going to hold any water in the mainstream media, or do you think the American people are smart enough to know, yeah, they don't actually care about the budget, which is how we got into this mess to begin with, so that argument doesn't hold water? And I wonder, your thoughts more broadly of, okay, well, this is not like they're just firing people. Like, these are all people that are willingly deciding to take this sort of deal. Do any of those arguments hold water, and do you think there's going to be any sort of backlash, or do you think this is just going to come and go and be a win for the administration?
On our side of the voting ticket, it's not going to matter. It doesn't matter what CNN or MSNBC or ABC or CBS says. No one's going to convince MAGA or Republican conservatives that having a big government is good for the American people. Now, it does give the Democrats some ammunition, because they literally ran on the government will solve your problems. The government is what makes your life better. We will raise your taxes. Why? So that we have more money to be a better government. But that's not what MAGA wants. That's not what conservatives want. We want to keep our own money because we have jobs. So I'm not interested in giving more tax money to a government that spends terribly. So no, I don't think it's going to hold water, but you better believe CNN is going to be beating the drum all day long about Donald Trump shutting down the government, Donald Trump being the single biggest reason that the government shrank and can't do its job. If there's a fire, if there's an earthquake, whatever it is, they will all blame Donald Trump.
You brought up a good point at the beginning there of, the lib media is going to run with this and be like, this is the worst thing that's happened. But also, none of us are watching any of those channels to begin with. So I don't know, it feels like a moot point there. And I think that they're probably not going to get the benefit that they think. So zoom out with me 30,000 feet. What do you think is next? What do you think is coming down the pike of cutting government spending, as a whole? Obviously, 100,000 federal workers leaving their jobs is great news, but what comes after that? Because even though it's saving $250 billion, like you mentioned at the beginning, it's really nowhere near the deficit. What else do you think has to at least be looked at to be on the chopping block in order to get us on a more fiscally responsible path, especially with how the entire world is looking nowadays?
They've got to put mechanisms in place to not just willy-nilly increase government based on pet projects, poison pills, things that they try to inject. I mean, if you go back and you look at data from when Trump was at his highest, when people had the most confidence, when people were really excited, it went back to Elon Musk and Doge. The American people put Donald Trump in office to be a chainsaw, to be a blunt force instrument against a bloated government. I'm going to tell you that 3 things happened under the Biden administration. Trump's being blamed for them now, but these squarely fall on Joseph Robinette Biden. The first one is most jobs under Joe Biden went to illegal immigrants. That has absolutely been proven. The next biggest area where jobs went under Joe Biden were to government jobs. He is the one that bloated. He is the one that hired. Why? They needed the job numbers to be good. And number 3, that we know with certainty is a fact, is that a large portion of those jobs were actually fabricated. They were fake. They had to go in and unwind them. And then what did Democrats do? They said, look at the jobs report. We're not growing under Donald Trump, but really they were minusing all of the fake jobs. So if you look into the data, now you've got American-born citizens. They're the ones getting jobs. Illegals are losing their jobs, and the government jobs that Joe Biden added, boom, they're gone. So I think Donald Trump is doing a great job, and I think the American people know that.
That is a great point, because I've mentioned a couple times, I don't have the specific numbers in front of me, but California is being touted as the 4th largest economy. They moved up from the 5th. But the overall job increase has been almost 90% have been new government jobs, where 10% is the private sector. Do you think that the administration, after this huge jobs cut to save taxpayer dollars, might look at states like California and go, hey, you can't be hiring all these people just to increase your jobs numbers. We're going to actually take a look at any money coming to your state and see if that's worth continuing to send?
I think every state in the union needs to doge their own government. California being one of the biggest, New York also one of the biggest. I mean, think back to those horrible Palisade fires outside of Los Angeles. They literally had a woman who makes $700,000 a year. She has one job: make sure there's water in the fire hydrants. And there wasn't. And it was one of the biggest disasters and embarrassments in our country's history. So all of these government jobs, they don't necessarily go to highly qualified people, and they're not necessarily jobs that we even need. So I think every state in the union should be doged. But yes, California is probably one of the worst.
I think you might have missed the point there, Stephen. I think she was a transgender lesbian, so she was qualified for the job because that's the standard of qualification in the state of California. Hey, great points. Really appreciate you taking the time. Stephen Gardner, host of the Stephen Gardner Show. You can find him on YouTube. Really appreciate you taking the time, Stephen.
Thank you.